Hi guys, you're watching I Want to Bake Free. Today we're going to make Anadama bread, stuffed leg of lamb with balsamic fig basil sauce. We shall make a pear and hazelnut flan that's totally decadent. You know, there are a lot of stories that tell you about how a recipe originated. So while I was traveling on the east coast of USA, I ate my first ever cornmeal and molasses bread called Anadama. पर आज हम इसे बनाएंगे हनी के साथ and not with good, which is molasses. ये इतना delicious है कि you have to just bake it to believe it. We're going to start with putting a nice non-stick pan. Into this non-stick pan, I'm going to pour some water. So the color of this bread is a beautiful golden brown because of the molasses, of course, but we're using honey and it is quite the same result. And when you first inhale the aroma of this bread, it has this, it just reminds you of running through fields with corn in it. So it's just like a really wonderful bread to have. So this is nice and warm, and now we're going to be adding our polenta or corn. Polenta is actually widely used in Italy. They make a lot of polenta cakes there. I'm going to be adding a little salt. And now the texture is all changed. So to this, I'm now going to be adding butter. Give it a nice good stir for our final bit, which is our honey. I'm going to just give it a very quick stir. So as soon as we have stirred this all in, I'm going to leave it here to cool. And now, what I have here in my hand is dry yeast. और हम इसे एक छोटे bowl में dissolve करेंगे, थोड़ा सा lukewarm water के साथ. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to keep this yeast here on the side. I'm going to take this bowl and pour out my polenta, butter, water, and honey mix. Just remember to kind of see if this is not too hot, because anything too hot stops the yeast from doing its job, which means making the bread light, fluffy, and doubling in size. Here is our yeast. I'm going to give it a good stir, and I'm going to add this to my polenta. Give this a nice good stir. So these are my wet active ingredients. And now I'm going to slowly add my flour. Let me check this. It's nice and soft. So I'm now going to pull it out onto our board and just bring it together. This is coming together so well. In fact, the texture is so different from a normal flour bread. Okay, so our bread is now ready to prove. So what we need to do is take a nice clean glass bowl, put into it some olive oil. We put our bread in the middle of this, drizzle a little oil over it. Now I'm going to cover this with a muslin cloth, but it needs to be damp. This is now ready, and I'm going to keep it to prove over my oven because since I bake a lot, it's nice and warm just over it. So here it is. It's so beautifully doubled. So now what I'm going to do is, I love doing this. It smells of CO2, which in layman's language is carbon dioxide. This is now ready for our second proving. A little oil into this baking loaf. We're just going to spread this all over. I'm going to just take this out. Put it into our baking tin. Press it down so that there is no CO2 left into it. We're just going to leave it for our final proving. This is going to take some time. Okay, it's about 40 minutes now, so my bread must have completely proved. So you have to be very careful with how you handle proved bread. Do not bang it, do not do anything that could upset its puffiness. And this will now go into the oven, which has been preheated 190 degrees for about 30 minutes or until the top is golden brown and the bottom of the loaf sounds nice and hollow when tapped. Thirty minutes are up. Yummy. Here it is, Anadama bread. This is outstanding. Why don't you go and take a look at a recap of this recipe of ours.
For Anadama bread, heat half cup water in a pan, add 30 gram polenta, 1 teaspoon salt and 2 tablespoon butter. Mix it well and cook it on a low flame. Now add 4 tablespoon honey and keep it for resting until it cools down. In a separate bowl, take the polenta and honey mixture. Add the activated yeast, 350 gram all-purpose flour and knead it into a circular shaped dough. Add 1 tablespoon olive oil and prove the dough for 30 minutes under a wet muslin cloth. After proving, deflate the dough and remove the carbon dioxide present in it. Now coat the baking container with 1 tablespoon olive oil and place the dough for proving. Prove the dough again for 30 minutes under a wet muslin cloth. In a preheated oven at 190 degrees Celsius, bake for 30 minutes. Your Anadama bread is ready.